Did you know? Suicide rates have increased by 27% since 2000. It's now the second leading cause of death for those between the ages of 10 and 34, behind only unintentional injury. Suicide rates for teenage boys are on the rise, and for teenage girls, the suicide rate is the highest it's been in 40 years. Georgia schools are now required to give teachers suicide prevention training under a new law passed 2 years ago. And we found that some schools are doing even more. The best things in life make us smile and give us strength in tough times. These students at Lassiter High School are learning how to use those strengths to help others.
I definitely think it's good to remember to always be kind to everyone, because you never know what somebody is going through. You never know how much they're really hiding.
Lassiter is the latest to embrace Sources of Strength, a national suicide prevention program.
We had a really tough year last year, losing a current student, losing a former student, and our students really grieved over that, and they wanted some help too. They wanted to spread the word of kindness and to be helpful to each other, to be there if someone's feeling upset, if they're depressed.
40 teachers and staff members have gone through training to become adult advisors. Students play a critical role too. This is part of their training to become peer leaders.
It's not just, the kids that are involved in everything. We are pulling in kids that have never been involved in anything, but they want to help. So having that presence in every peer group within the school, we're hoping that will be helpful.
Sources of Strength took center stage during Lassiter's varsity game against Roswell High School last month.
And we handed out over 1,000 baggies of purple confetti. Both student sections, the first kickoff threw up the purple confetti, and it was just like a message of, we have to be here for each other.
Roswell High lost a student to suicide just days before the game.
I've had friends that have had mental health problems, and I've known people that have attempted or committed suicide. And I think it's not something that we should just be putting on the back burner, because it's a growing problem, clearly, and nobody that feels that poorly should be just ignored.
Skylar Umstead is a senior and one of the first students trained as a peer leader.
A lot of kids don't go to adults because they're worried that their parents might find out and what might happen. So they go to their friends, and it's good to have people that know how to handle it and know when a situation is serious enough to have to take it to an adult so that it can be taken care of.
A lot of kids really struggle with social anxiety at school. They're trying to fit in. If there's anything that we can do from a school perspective to provide some source of help, resource, that's what we want to do.
So how do you handle it if you suspect that someone you know might be considering suicide? The CDC says do not leave them alone. Remove any firearms, alcohol, drugs, or sharp objects. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Take them to an emergency room or seek help from a medical or mental health professional. You can also call 911. The 1-800 number on the bottom of your screen has experts who specialize in the care of veterans, who account for 22% of suicides. My colleague Jeremy Campbell has more on the impact of post-traumatic stress disorder.
You've likely heard about the high rate of suicide among service members. Veterans make up about 9% of the U.S. population, but they account for 1 out of 5 deaths by suicide, according to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans are 22% more likely to die by suicide when compared with civilians, and female service members are at a particularly high risk.
When we've looked at large studies establishing the effects long-term of just brain injury, for example, we know that one of the re-emerging syndromes are generally depression, anxiety, problems that often go along with PTSD. And we know that those diagnoses tend to increase risk of suicides.
Anyone trying to help a struggling veteran can call the VA Crisis Line and find immediate mental health support. For a direct connection for help, now, later, or even in the middle of the night, call the number on your screen.
You can call anytime. The Trevor Project is the leading national organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention services to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning youth from 13 to 24 years old. LGB youth are almost 5 times as likely to attempt suicide as heterosexual youth and almost 3 times as likely to contemplate suicide. Transgender teens are also at higher risk. The Trevor Project has its own hotline. The number is 1-866-488-7386. There is a walk this weekend in Atlanta to raise awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. The Out of Darkness Walk will take place on Sunday at 2 o'clock at Piedmont Park. You can find a link with more information on 11alive.com. As we go to break, here's a powerful anthem released earlier this year by the rapper Logic. It's named for the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
I finally wanna be alive.